Review a Raw for Monday night. Download a Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review a Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wayne Take the Mic.
Welcome to Review a Raw here on the Fight Network. I'm John Pollock along with Wei Ting, and we're about to dive into Raw from Monday night in Nashville, Tennessee. Music City, Wei. The home of TNA.
Yes. Which you can catch right here on the Fight Network.
Oh, it was just on, maybe.
Oh, yes. Yes.
If you're watching this.
If you're watching this at night.
We immediately follow Impact.
In the evening, yeah.
Yes. How did that happen?
Ask our...
It's good scheduling.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Are you ready to chat about Raw?
Yes.
We were going into this Raw. No Roman Reigns on this show after his... he had some pre-existing issue, which they dealt with last Monday to write him off, and then I guess enough that he wasn't going to be at the tapings on Monday, which when you look at all the cities they're about to hit, Nashville was probably the best one for him to show up at. It's going to be 4 weeks where we got Chicago, Philly, Pittsburgh, and Brooklyn for Roman Reigns heading in to Raw. And no shortage of stuff to talk about Roman Reigns from this show in his absence.
So that nose injury completely a work?
No, in the sense he really did need an operation on his nose for some issue, but it wasn't as a result of the angle last week. So Triple H comes out to start the show in a suit. We did not get jeans and leather Hunter.
Not tonight.
I think that Hunter it did not work last week.
No, I think he'll still break it out whenever he needs to get physical. That's his streetwear.
Well,
Hunter.
Not to say Roman Reigns is this lovable babyface that was very much hurt by Hunter in that last segment last week, but I mean, this was a different Hunter from last week. This was...
How so?
Throughout this show, whether it was being in the suit, he was not playing to the crowd, there were no crotch chops, there was nothing. Hunter was playing a drastically different character this week than I saw in that last segment last week, I felt.
Okay. I mean, I felt like he just kind of reverted to the same authority figure Hunter that he was before.
Yes. I think last week was not so much that.
No, last week he was supposed to be...
He was the cool heel last week.
He was supposed to be playing the active wrestler, Triple H.
Well, I think there's a balance between what we got to end Raw last week and what we got to end tonight's Raw. So the show began with him out and said how Roman Reigns disrespected him. And the crowd did chant lightly for Roman. And says that Roman is at home breathing through his mouth, which makes it sound like he's on an oxygen tank or something at home from this attack. Dean Ambrose interrupts him and says he spoke to Reigns on the phone and he's coming for Hunter. And Hunter jokes, it was our first Oscars joke of the night, and not the best one, but not the worst. The best supporting actor in a bromance, Dean Ambrose, says Hunter. I thought Ambrose played off of Hunter very well. I thought that he was...
Really? With his comeback? His Oscar joke?
No. I didn't say that...
He made some
Mad Max joke.
I'm not going to go all Mad Max on you.
And then says he was mangled by a grizzly bear last week. I thought that was a Revenant reference, but that was being saved for later in the show for another painful reminder that this company is aware of what happened last night. He mentions Shane's return, and the crowd starts buzzing and chanting for Shane McMahon. And Ambrose asks if Hunter likes Shane or not, as if he's not quite sure where Hunter stands on the Shane issue. And Hunter just shakes his head and tells him to keep going, which was a nice little seed to have there, because that should be something down the road. That should be an issue.
Triple H
with Hunter, yes, and something with Shane. Then Hunter says that Reigns and Lesnar were the only ones. Jesus.
Oh, come on.
I unmuted.
We got to restart the show.
There we go. He then says that Reigns and Lesnar were the only ones that mattered at Fastlane, and that Ambrose was not a factor, and that Ambrose then stands up to him and believes that he was the last guy that Hunter wanted to face, and Hunter calls him mental. We got an Ambrose chant, and then Hunter says he knows he can beat him. And Hunter says how he has more money, power, and clean clothes, which Ambrose does not possess. And it leads to Ambrose challenging him for a title match. And Hunter asks if he thinks he can just simply come out here and yell right now, and that's how it works.
Yeah, another soundbite for us.
And he says that he will give Dean an answer by the end of the night. And then Dean clarifies if this is going to be at the end of Raw, if he's just going to text him. How is this answer going to be delivered back to me? And Hunter says it will be at the end of the show, that he will get an answer if he will get a title match. And then for the show, they kind of like promoted it as if there was this title match coming, but it was simply the answer to whether a title match would be coming Dean's way.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were gonna. I didn't know if the title match would have taken place at the end of Raw, or
they wanted you to think that. Maybe we're gonna get a title match tonight. That was their hook for the night. Maybe we'll get a title match. So they go through that. That was 18 minutes to start off Raw. What did you think of Dean Ambrose in this segment?
You know, I thought
he was fine.
I thought he was okay. I thought Triple H actually. You know, I thought he was making a lot of cool heel jokes here, to the point where it seemed like he was trying to get laughs and cheers rather than boos. And so, you know, I wasn't as big of a fan, but I thought it was fine overall.
Yes, we got Dean Ambrose, who was up for the Best Roman Reigns Adaptation Award tonight. That's the role he was playing tonight. Each week on Review of Raw, pay attention for the secret question. You can tweet the answer at Law Radio every week for your chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees. Charlotte's at ringside with Rick for the next match, which is the #1 contenders match involving Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, with the winner going to WrestleMania. And both were going for covers immediately. Each got out of the other's finish, with Becky going for the disarmer, Sasha for the Banks statement. Becky then landed a shot off the apron, and then they ran her into the post going to the break, and afterwards, Sasha gets launched in the air, comes down with the double knees. Becky hit an exploder for a 2 count. Becky landed a missile drop kick, and then they're battling on the turnbuckle. There's headbutts delivered by Becky, and Sasha hits a sunset flip power bomb out of the corner and then flips over so both shoulders are down for each participant, and the referee counts the double pinfall, and it's declared a draw. I didn't care so much about the finish, but this was pretty much verbatim of what they had just done with Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn on NXT like 2 weeks ago.
With the sunset flip powerbomb?
Not with that. It was a different setup to the both shoulders being down.
Yeah.
This was just so similar.
Oh, but this has happened many times in pro wrestling.
Well, it's just...
Zayn and Joe is hardly the first time that a double count pinfall has happened.
It is. It just felt like this was way too similar. This lacked anything original. And the crowd, though, chanted triple threat, which is probably the desired reaction they wanted.
The crowd got the cue. But that finish I thought looked terrible. I thought the sunset flip.
Well, that was the other problem. Is that Joe and Zayn, it was really well done.
Yeah.
They did all the multiple camera angles. They spent a lot of time. This, it was like they gave a minute to react to this, and then we moved on. It was a draw.
I thought the execution of the sunset flip powerbomb was really poor. I mean, Sasha got it off. I think the idea was that she was so knocked out by the headbutts prior that she collapsed. But the way it played out, Sasha delivers a sunset flip powerbomb off the top rope, but then she just she lands it and then she just collapses. It just didn't really look convincing at all, in my opinion. The match I think was good. It seemed like they were moving a little slow and a little too choreographed. But I was very disappointed by the finish, which was really an important part of the storytelling, and something that they had to replay multiple times. And it's unfortunate to me that it didn't look that good.
Yeah, I feel they were also trying to get a lot in. This was less than 9 minutes, which was one of the longer matches on Raw, and it just felt like there was one where I think it was Becky who landed all these forearm strikes. And then Sasha just took them, and then she went into her offense. It was like, what are we even doing here with these forearm strikes? If you're not even going to register them, it just means nothing. And there was a lot of that I felt in this match, where it was just we're going from one thing to the next, and we're just racing through this 9-minute match. And then to get to the finish, you bring it up about the headbutts. Yeah, I think that's something that could have been on the announcers to explain why that happened, because it really made no sense why Sasha was out.
Yeah, how even if the headbutts were the idea, how do you get knocked out via headbutt and then deliver a sunset.
It looked
flip
very
powerbomb.
awkward that Sasha was not able to at least get her shoulder up, and that should have been explained. Give a storyline reason. The Wyatts had a taped promo, and Bray discusses the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over. And
By the way, was that the first time Sasha was pinned in a match?
Since coming on to the main roster? I think so, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't, completely clean. She didn't lose, but still interesting.
So Bray is explaining what the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, which, if there's ever a better description of his promos, that might be it.
And we don't know who he's talking to.
No. We assume it's us, somehow.
Maybe he'll face us at WrestleMania.
He says maybe he is insane, or his mind is the key to saving the entire world. One or the other. And he offers his hand to take you to eternal paradise.
Any guesses as to what his program is going to be at Mania?
Maybe a match involving many individuals that will be all placed in there without entrances. It's not, WrestleMania is not looking bright for Bray Wyatt. There's no tease of anything at this point, and I feel it's a real waste to see this guy in the Battle Royal, but I don't see, unless there's maybe some multiple person thing for the IC title, and he finds himself in that, and even that he feels like there's no connection to him at this point to anybody now that the Brock thing is wiped away. The Miz and Dolph Ziggler have a match. Last week, this match was set up because they had an argument on the pre-show. That's about as low a level for an angle as possible. Last week's pre-show. And The Miz was talking about how he should be in a main match at WrestleMania, and Ziggler said that Miz has done nothing since WrestleMania in 2001, and Ziggler doesn't think Miz deserves to be a WWE superstar, much less on the WrestleMania marquee. A super kick is blocked by Miz, then Ziggler blocks the skull-crushing finale, and Ziggler is Irish whipped and goes chest first into the turnbuckle, and Miz, the guy who doesn't deserve to be a WWE superstar per Ziggler's criteria, schoolboys Ziggler in a minute 4 and pins Ziggler. And JBL ends it by saying, "What do you have to say now, Dolph?" Boy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm expecting this feud to continue.
Oh, thank God.
But I wouldn't expect this match to be so brief. It was so brief that it just felt very inconsequential, and, like by the end of the show, I completely forgot about it.
If you had to make a depth chart, who is above who in the pecking order? Because I would say of the last 2 months, I would say Miz is above Ziggler.
I think
I've enjoyed Miz.
I would pretty much say they're about the same level, but, yeah, maybe. You can make an argument for both.
This made Ziggler just look so...
Does it really hurt him that much, though, compared to the place that he was at? He's pretty low in general.
They recap Shane's return, and this video package featured photos of Vince Sr. with Bruno Sammartino. And that took us into the second hour of the show where Stephanie came out, and maybe someone was listening to the Law on Sunday night, because tomorrow, Tuesday, on the WWE Network, they are launching The Legacy of Shane McMahon.
Whoa, a playlist? Or
a playlist, yes,
wow.
of his greatest moments.
Amazing.
Which, boy, if there's anyone, if you want to go back and watch something worthwhile, go watch the Raw going into Royal Rumble 2009. And Orton closing the show by punting Vince's head in. And then skip the Rumble and go to No Way Out, where you get Randy Orton and Shane.
Okay.
And that's where, Randy Orton was just white hot, and Shane McMahon, the fire extinguisher. I'm sure that'll be on the Legacy of Shane McMahon playlist. And the Vincent J. McMahon trophy is in the ring, and Stephanie is here to finish her acceptance speech as the crowd is chanting for Shane, and Stephanie says he is not here tonight. And then she goes to read her notes and goes to start it off with the driest delivery possible to get this crowd irate. And she's getting annoyed at all of the Shane chants. And she takes this trophy and holds it as if it's her baby, right in her arms. And then she just gets pissed. She knocks over the trophy stand and says that Shane tried to blackmail her father. She says if Shane really supported her family, it would have been nice for him to show up once or twice. Says he has never attended WrestleMania since he left, much less a Raw or SmackDown. She calls it abandonment. And he doesn't care about the family. She says she does love her brother, but does not respect him. and that it eats him alive, that Hunter and I are married, and that she wields all this power. And then she goes to set up WrestleMania 50 with the sons versus the daughters. This was great.
Shane's kids versus Stephanie's daughters. Yeah.
Yes. And then calls out the sexism on Shane's part to think that he should have the right to this company because he's the man to succeed Vince, and that Taker will dismember him. And then she goes on to say that Shane is a reflection of all these people, narcissistic and wastes of life, who are entitled and think that they're owed something, and they will be forced to bow down to the authority, bow down to the king, and bow down to your queen. This was outstanding.
Yeah.
And I would put it at the top, maybe, of Stephanie McMahon promos. She was excellent.
Yeah, one of her best performances, definitely. She was able to concisely tell the story, which was not all that clearly explained last week.
Oh, it was a classic Vince delivery of an announcement.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie here got into the details and got into a lot of the motivations, particularly, of course, of her own character, and even gets multiple times into her deep, hoarse Vince voice. I mean, I think at this point...
She blows away Vince as a performer.
And her husband as a promo. I think she's better than Vince and Triple H.
Hunter's got his moments, but this was an outstanding promo. Mm-hmm. This was just great, I thought. And this, to me, encapsulated everything for the match and what they're fighting over and giving her side of it. I just thought it was just a really well-delivered promo. Log on to FightNetwork.com daily for podcasts from Live Audio Wrestling covering the entire industry on a daily basis. The Lucha Dragons took on Sheamus and Rusev. And JBL notes Rusev's challenge that he put out on Twitter today, that if anyone can body slam him, he'll give away his Maserati. Which played into nothing on this show. There was an advantage on Sin Cara in the heels corner, and Rusev is yelling at Sheamus to break Sin Cara's arm from the corner. There was a tag made to Kalisto. He hit a handspring into an enziguri and corkscrew off the second rope, followed with a head scissors, and Sheamus made the save. Sin Cara hit a suicide dive to Barrett on the floor, and then Kalisto gets distracted by Del Rio on the floor. Rusev lands a head kick as Kalisto turns around and pins Kalisto. At 5:04, Rusev wins, and he retains his car.
I think Kalisto has felt a lot colder and forgotten about now that he's back in a tag team again instead of defending the U.S. title. Towards the end of this, they were teasing, a continuation of that Del Rio program, but I don't know how much more interest there is in another Del Rio
Maybe Kalisto's going to body slam Rusev, and then Del Rio is going to put up one of his big cars against Kalisto's Maserati with the U.S. title.
My. Maybe they can do it on the roof of Cobo Hall.
Oh, yeah. Well, we will be in Dallas, but maybe we could get a live remote.
Mm-hmm.
So afterwards, there's a post-match attack, and Del Rio hits the double foot stomp off the top to Kalisto, and then they hoist Del Rio up to celebrate.
Yeah, the League of Nations now are doing a lot of kind of more entertaining, goofy comedy, and I think it has made them more entertaining. And you can tell Rusev must be sort of the brains behind a lot of the funny mannerisms because he seems to be the one.
He has good instincts.
Yeah, he's got great instincts. I think he's got a very unique type of humor. You know what I mean? He's not the New Day. He's not, Santino. He's like an over-exaggerated monster who will celebrate with really exaggerated faces. And I think he did that tremendously here, just picking up Del Rio like he had just won the Super Bowl. And the whole crew is now kind of along with that tone, and I think it works for him.
Their celebrations are about the only thing I can really say is a positive about the League of Nations, which, I mean, as a collective, I think they've hardly reached what they were intended to when they were all grouped together. And then we went to Renee and Natalya.
Yeah.
This was Natalya's involvement on this 3-hour and 10-minute show with a conveniently placed Subway sandwich and drink in the locker room. And Renee asking Natalya, how do you do it and look so fit? And Natalya gives us all a lesson about you have to treat your body right on the road. Lots of water, lots of exercise, and, water, exercise, and the new rotisserie chicken sandwich, which he's in love with. And Renee, someone that is a very talented broadcaster, has to end off this segment by saying, there you go, a winning combination.
Man, they shot this in the locker room. I hope they headed straight for the showers because I felt dirty just watching this. This was it felt like it was right out of the 50s in terms of how corny and how blatant it was. And, I mean, if you're a PR person for Subway, could you be satisfied with this?
Listen.
This is bad for your brand.
Subway's had a lot worse happen to their brand over the last 6 months than this.
That is very true, yes. But, man, this is somebody's day, scripting and producing this segment.
The WWE has now passed 10 million YouTube subscribers with more than 8 billion video views.
Great.
A round of applause.
We're close to that on our YouTube channel.
Are we hitting that?
Yeah.
I think we're at 1 million.
Close.
A few billion. RYBACK and Adam Rose were next. Okay, here was the worst, in my opinion, the worst acknowledgement of the Academy Awards. We had an insert promo from RYBACK. I should stop there because already we're kind of digging the grave. RYBACK says, in the most RYBACK wooden delivery, Spotlight outshined all the others at the Oscars. When you work hard like me, you deserve to shine on your own. I want the spotlight, or I'm just going to take it. Do you think RYBACK watched Spotlight and realizes this was a movie about priests that were molesting children at an alarming rate that was finally uncovered by an editorial staff in Boston? I don't know if the spotlight that movie was trying to put a light on through that piece in the 90s is exactly a parallel to RYBACK looking for a U.S. title push.
Yeah.
But hey, these pop culture fanatics on this roster. And Cole then came out of that. Well, the social outcasts have been dying for the spotlight too. Who's going to get the spotlight? It's a spotlight match. Oh, Rose got the heat, some downward elbows, a bit of aggression out of Rose. He went for a sleeper, jawbreaker, and then RYBACK mounted him with strikes, and the referee is trying to pull him off.
Yeah, wouldn't you just disqualify a guy?
Well, I thought what they were going to be doing was like a TKO finish, which I thought that's kind of cool, but he just pulled him off, and then RYBACK went right back and hit the shell shock, pinned him in 2 minutes, and then just stormed to the back and left. Similar
effect.
Yeah.
I'd say. I thought this was good. RYBACK left the show last week kind of, showing that he was going to change, and I thought they were successful in showing a bit of a change in character today. I love how he just leaves the ring after the pinfall. Doesn't stick around for the celebration at all.
The New Day come out. Xavier, did you notice this? He now has the Iron Sheik curled toe boots.
Yeah, I saw that last week. Yeah.
Oh, has he had them beyond this week? He says that they are a brotherhood. They all hug and say they are the best three-man team in history and not a loose collective like the League of Booty. And they stack up against Sonic and Tails, Snoop and Dre, and Edge and Christian, whose show they plug on the WWE Network. And then they made this Bootios and Milk joke, and utter silence from this Nashville crowd.
I mean, the thing is, they are heels, so they're trying to cut jokes that are bad, and they're laughing at their own lame jokes. I think that's the idea. I would say I prefer this over, let's say a Triple H making cool heel jokes.
Fair enough. And they state that they are real friends, unlike Y2AJ, who are fake friends, and they get interrupted by Jericho, who comes out sporting his black eye from last week. And then AJ comes out, and it was noticeable that they had all those they don't want none signs, very much just like the Cesaro sign, the Cesaro section signs.
So I guess that's his new catchphrase.
They don't want none. From Mr. Graham or AJ Styles. Maybe he's doing a Samoa Joe gimmick. after he was caught by the grammar police last week.
Oh, that's
Yes.
a very inside.
No, this was playing on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Kofi Kingston and Big E took on Chris Jericho and AJ Styles. A decent match that got a bit of time. They set the New Day to the floor and hit a double pescado. They went through a break, and then they had the advantage on AJ. Woods grabbed his foot from the floor to distract him during the break, and that led to the New Day attacking him in the corner. We got the stomps in the corner. AJ's on the floor, and Kofi goes down there to attack AJ, and Woods pulls out a deck of cards, and Kofi pulls out a 2 with AJ's face on it and reveals that he's got his number. Mm-hmm. You can't say that these guys are not spending a lot of time thinking of everything possible they can. Big E splashed Styles, who kicked out. Then Styles ducked a clothesline, Pele kick, tagged in Jericho. There's this rough-looking bulldog to Kofi, and then a springboard drop kick that sent Woods off the apron. Jericho avoids a drop kick, hits a lion salt, and Big E makes the save, runs Jericho shoulder first into the post, but then turns around and Styles lands a springboard forearm, and Styles gets sent to the floor. Jericho catches Kofi as he goes for the Trouble in Paradise and locks on the walls for the win.
I thought a very hot match by the end. I would say this was the best match on Raw, in my opinion. I think AJ and Jericho are just showing more chemistry together as a team. And I think it's becoming more apparent that AJ is not going to get, an intercontinental title match. He might get a singles match, but if he does, it'll probably be with Jericho again. If not, we'll probably get this tag team in some type of match at WrestleMania. And I'm not that upset by it. I think this AJ Jericho story still has some legs left in it, and if they're going to team them, it might as well be after the feud. And AJ here got to talk a little.
Yeah, I really hope that they do the breakup. I feel these two are much more valuable on WrestleMania in a singles role. I just think anyone could occupy these tag spots, and these are two guys, in particular AJ, who does have some momentum that I think just throwing him into a tag match that would probably be some multi-team version. Mm-hmm. I just think it's for a guy that has come in and has gotten over, and Jericho coming back and lost his program, it just seems that would be kind of not the best use of these two, and I'm thinking the split probably does happen. So afterwards, Styles says that this puts them at the top of the list for a shot at the tag titles, and Jericho says that Y2AJ is a thing. I know with that name, this team is not sticking around, because I will guarantee you that Jericho hates that damn name. Guarantee you.
I mean, we had Show Miz or a JERICHO. That was a real tag team name.
Well, do you remember when they put Jericho and Miz together briefly?
What were they?
They didn't have a name.
Oh, okay.
Because when it was suggested that they should go by the name Chris Miz, the guy freaked. It's like, no, we're not being some stupid pun. And they challenged them to a match next week on Raw, and we'll find out later if the match is, well, it is. So it's happening next week.
Next week on Raw.
In Chicago. This Wednesday on Review Away, we are reviewing WrestleMania 12 from March of 1996, featuring the Iron Man match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, the return of the Ultimate Warrior, Kevin Nash's final WrestleMania match, plus the Huckster versus the Nacho Man. It's Review Away this Wednesday at liveaudiowrestling.com and free on iTunes. Third hour begins with Vince McMahon coming out, and he's not all too pleased with the reaction from the crowd. He calls them out on it. And he imagines introducing Shane the night after WrestleMania, saying that hell would have to freeze over for Shane to have won over The Undertaker. It would be a miracle. And says that Hunter and Stephanie would quit the business if that happened, and he would end up being put to the sidelines and never see the light of day again and lead the WWE into a new era, Shane would. And says none of that will happen, and only fools believe in miracles, and he loves his son enough that he's going to teach him a lesson. And he calls The Undertaker my instrument of destruction. And he brings out The Undertaker, as JBL calls these two of the biggest icons, not just in sports entertainment, but in television history. And Taker enters the ring and grabs Vince by the throat. And Taker says he knows Vince knows what will happen when the door closes and that the blood of your son is on your hands, not mine. And Taker leaves.
Yeah, I thought it was simple and effective. I don't think Taker needed long, drawn-out explanation.
I wanted to know what his thoughts were on Sylvester Stallone losing the Academy Award.
Yeah.
Your son's Rocky, but I'm Clubber Lang.
Anyway, it establishes Taker's, the whole, I think there was a lot of speculation about how Taker's role would fit into all this. Would he play babyface or heel? How is he going to work for Vince? And I think in one simple, interaction here, he established that he is an unwilling pawn in Vince's game and not concerned at all with whoever takes control of the show. His only concern is to destroy his opponent in this match at WrestleMania. And, I think he's going to go in as a babyface, and that's all he needed to do here.
Yeah, I just think that the way this match is not all that unlike the exact same setup we have for Brock and Dean Ambrose, where you have two baby faces, where it's the one guy that's going to destroy the underdog, and you're supposed to root for the underdog here. And I think in both cases, it's going to be challenging because you do have, I feel that there's going to be, I think, a huge contingent that are going to be behind the Undertaker in this match. Yeah. I don't know if Shane's going to be able to draw that same level of sympathy. Where he's going to have to get over in this match is by doing a lot of crazy stuff that's going to get the crowd very into this. And the Hell in a Cell presents a big handicap in that regard.
But it's not just Shane, winning the match. It's Shane taking over Raw. That is the result that fans will be cheering for. They
are, but it's going to be a weird visual if it's just a straight up Undertaker versus Shane match without something to, because Shane has to have his moments in this match.
I feel like as you and I are about to see when we review WrestleMania 12 this week on Review Away Wednesdays at liveoutawrestling.com.
The 20th anniversary of WrestleMania 12.
We're going to talk about Brett versus Shawn at WrestleMania 12 in the Iron Man match, which I think might be the best example of a babyface versus babyface build in the WWF's history. I think, or one of them. I think the end result is, are the fans going to be invested in this match? Are they going to be interested to watch it? And are they going to be loud when they're watching it? And I think the answer is going to be yes for this match.
I think it will too. I'm not. I know that night I will get a million people saying, "See, turned out great." Not my point in the least. I have no doubt that this match, it's going to be structured very well and given every opportunity. And I'm sure this crowd is going to get into it. But it definitely presents its issues. I think when you're because of the fact that the Undertaker is doing this match. I think this would be very different if it was Shane against a different heel on the roster, someone that people hated.
I think there's something to be said though about it being Shane, and with these stakes attached, you don't know if the Undertaker is going to win. Versus last year, for instance, against Bray Wyatt. Well, I mean, I think that was a pretty easy prediction. If it was Taker versus, Wade Barrett or even Dean Ambrose, I feel like that's a pretty predictable outcome. But this year, you don't really know who's going to win.
Do you think people are going to leave with, granted, you have the Raw stipulation, and people are very much into that. Undertaker losing at WrestleMania, I think that's still at the end of the day a downer for people. Depending on how it's done.
Depending on how he does it. If like it's been many people have proposed, if Taker himself kind of sacrifices the victory on his own will, I don't think it'll get
I really don't like that idea.
Yeah.
I almost feel you need someone here that there's something coming out of this, because it's not another match between these two, and Shane beating Undertaker, you better have a great idea to do that, because this is Shane McMahon pinning the Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It sounds ludicrous a week later. So they're in for, and they could work their way out of this stipulation too, where the Undertaker wins this and Shane is able to you continue this storyline.
Right.
I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. The Law has launched its own YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to now. Simply go and search for The Law Live Audio Wrestling on YouTube, and you can get all of our videos, including classic editions of Review Away, brand new Review of Raw episodes, and the return of Ask Away, where Wei Ting and I answer your questions. Go search for The Law Live Audio Wrestling, subscribe today, and catch all of Live Audio Wrestling's videos. Vince stays in the ring, and he's selling his throat being grabbed and needing some water, and says he will stand here the night after WrestleMania, and that will be when Shane has failed to beat The Undertaker, failed as his son, and he's also going to lose his inheritance. He will write him out of his will and give it all to Stephanie, and he will renounce Shane as his son, and states, Shane McMahon will no longer be my son from my heart. He will just be a son of a bitch.
Oh, ouch. I felt like it was a little odd placement to have Vince continue his promo after the Taker appearance. I feel like it kind of dismisses Taker's appearance as something unimportant. You know, I felt
Well, that was the big soundbite, was the last line.
Son of a
He had to
bitch.
get that in.
Yeah.
Jey Uso against Bubba Ray Dudley. By the way, do you think we see The Undertaker before WrestleMania? I don't know how much. He's not advertised, but that can always change.
I think it's important for him to do something physical with Shane, you know, or at least be in the ring together with the two of them rather than not having him appear.
Yeah, I think he should appear at least once more.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need much more than that.
No, he doesn't really need to talk much.
Yeah, like tonight's segment, a lot of people were negative because it was so
Brief.
that it was brief, but you don't want an Undertaker soliloquy for 10 minutes. And there isn't a whole lot for him to say here.
Yep.
I mean, less was better for him. Jey Uso and Bubba Ray Dudley, they had a very short match. They were striking back and forth. Jey hit a super kick, and then Devon pulled out a table, distracting Jey. Jimmy ran from the floor, off the steps, and just right into this table. Like the table was set up before he even launched onto the steps and looked so goofy in taking himself out. This prompted Jey to knock Devon down on the floor, and then as he went to return to the ring, got kicked and took a Bubba bomb and got pinned in 211. These Usos were
They screwed up.
goofos or something. I don't know. They both look so stupid here. These guys just got outsmarted. It just looked like, wow, this was not thought out well.
What do you see these two? What's your prediction for these two teams?
I don't see them getting a match at WrestleMania. I think, if anything, they're going to be thrown into some multi-tag title.
Not even the pre-show.
You could maybe put them on the pre-show. You have 5 hours to work with. Or you could, because it feels like the New Day is probably going to get the League of Nations, and then it's a question of...
They might throw some other teams in there.
Well, that's where these two teams would fit in. If you're really crunched for time, even though they are separate stories at this point, they could get merged together. R-Truth is in the locker room, and Goldust enters, and R-Truth explains he doesn't need a partner. There will not be a future episode of Ride Along on the WWE Network with the two of them, and doesn't want anything from him. He's done with Goldust, who pouts and leaves. And you're left to feel bad for one Goldust, who will be featured on this week's Review Away.
Hollywood Backlot Brawl.
Yes, as Roddy Piper tries to make a man out of him. Kevin Owens and the Big Show in a non-title match. Big Show hit a shoulder block, and then they went to the floor. Show made it back in time after taking a tornado DDT to the floor. There was a running senton by Owens for a 2 count. Then he climbs to the top, gets caught by the throat, and Big Show crotches Owens on the top rope, who lands on the floor, which is the reverse of what they did on SmackDown, where Owens won by countout. This time with Show winning by countout at 2:38. And being that it was a non-title match, Big Show didn't look like an idiot for trying to bring the champion back into the ring. He got the count-out victory.
Sure, yeah.
Though you would probably want to pin the champion, a la Styles and Jericho, who pinned the team to get the title shot next week. Show didn't get a title match out of this, did he?
I don't know. If
So maybe he's with the Usos.
I don't know if he really cares about winning that Intercontinental title.
Well, he just won his, I guess, 6th match in the last 5 years from his count, his unofficial score count.
Yeah, it's not looking that great for Owens at WrestleMania this year. I mean, I don't see this Big Show program leading to that. I don't know what program he has going into the show.
Yep. Renee is with Brie Bella. She talks about her tough loss to Charlotte at Fastlane and that they had a great match. Goes to give an update on Bryan and Nikki when Lana walks in and compares herself to Brie, saying she has a figure while Brie is skin and bones, and Lana has a man that provides for her while Brie's marriage is doomed to fail. And Brie tells Lana to go have a match first, and then you can go back to your cave and tell her Neanderthal husband that she loved him as the bear in The Revenant. Oh, God. This was about as painful as some of the scenes.
I was waiting for a Steve Jobs reference.
Yeah. We needed a father-daughter chat. Maybe Roman Reigns.
Charlotte and
Charlotte and Rick. That would have been great. Rick's trying to launch his newest business. Honey, it's the Four Horsemen Cube. Brie and Naomi. I mean, they had a match here. It went 4 minutes. It ended with Naomi applying this crucifix. Brie kicked out, but then Naomi somehow applied this submission, like with these like...
It's like a Rings of Saturn, but with the opponents facing the ceiling.
Yeah, she got the tap. It looked very awkward, this submission, and then started delivering elbows like she was Gary Goodrich at UFC 8. So we have a new submission, and Naomi wins, and then Lana came out and just laughed at her. This Sunday night on Live Audio Wrestling, we are live at 11 p.m. Eastern Time with Jason Agnew and Dan Labransky going through all the week's news, and we welcome Joey Ryan to the show, as well as Dave Meltzer. It's 11 Eastern this Sunday night, TSN 1050 Toronto, 1410 Vancouver, and at liveaudiowrestling.com. They showed the fabulous Freebirds, including Jimmy Garvin, going into the Hall of Fame class, which you would have to imagine Kevin Von Erich inducts him. Like, that would make... It'd be insane not to do that. And they'll get a lot of publicity locally in Dallas for, rekindling that feud. Sasha and Becky argue about the match that went down, both thinking they had the other one beat. Rick and his daughter. Lisa, that was it, right, the system. And... they explain that they have another chance to get the WrestleMania title match on SmackDown, where each is excited about this, and Charlotte compares them to a 7th grader getting a date, and one of them is going to go home to obscurity, and the other gets the honor of losing to her at WrestleMania. They announced the tag title match for Chicago next week, and Shane McMahon will be on the show in Chicago as well. And then main event time, Dean Ambrose and Alberto Del Rio. Ambrose's left shoulder was all taped up, and that's what the match was focused around, with Del Rio attacking it. Del Rio went for the double foot stomp and gets thrown off the top. They go to the floor. Ambrose gets draped on the barricade. There's nothing that looks sillier than the guy that has to hold on to the barricade while Del Rio climbs up and then hits this. And you're holding yourself up to get hit with it. It looks so bad.
It looks so silly. And I wonder why. I mean, they got 3 guys out there. Why don't they just have, at least 1 or 2 of them?
Yeah, just hold them up. And then let go as Del Rio comes down. It would look better than this. The babyface always looks like an idiot. Ambrose blocks an armbar attempt, goes for the dirty deeds. It's blocked. He hits a bulldog, knocks Del Rio from the top and lands a missile drop kick. And then Ambrose misses Del Rio and runs shoulder first into the post, takes an enziguri, and then Del Rio misses Ambrose and flies through the ropes to the floor. And then Ambrose hits an elbow drop to all 4 League of Nations members. When Hunter's music hits and he comes out, the tie comes off, and he sticks League of Nations to attack Ambrose for the DQ at 9:08. They leave Ambrose laying, and Hunter says that Ambrose will never beat the Authority. When Ambrose pops up, attacks Hunter, and Hunter then shuts him down with the pedigree, and Dean Ambrose did not have Ultimate Warrior recuperative ability, and the crowd booed this. And then Hunter says he will give him a title match. He goes to walk off, and Ambrose is down on the mat. The mic is there, and he mutters the word thanks to Hunter, which prompts Hunter to return, continues to attack him, lays him out on the desk, throws Byron Saxton about 500 feet off the air, and then punches Ambrose. And there's these crazy zooms in and out to convey the mayhem.
Way too much.
And Ambrose is left laying. This was very much in the spirit of the same finish to Raw last week with a very different reaction. I will not going to deny that Ambrose is a much better babyface, but Hunter was also a way better heel in this segment too than he was last week.
It's a different crowd as well.
It was a different crowd too. But listen, if you were just watching this show and have not watched in months, you would think this is the WrestleMania match. And I wouldn't say it's the worst direction.
What do you think is the end goal here? Just another, time fill, I guess, for another week?
Yeah, they didn't explain when this title match is going to be. I would assume it's going to be on a Raw. I don't see them putting something like that on that network special in Toronto. I think that's very much just going to be a house show where they've announced nothing as of yet, at least on television. So I figure it's going to be on Raw probably over the next couple of weeks, you would think, which I think almost needs to be a non-finish. You wouldn't want to beat either guy before WrestleMania. But, hey, if tonight's show is simply just to see how the audience takes to Ambrose, not that this guy was the biggest babyface in the world, but there was certainly...
I don't think that was in any question. I mean, just look at how Ambrose's reaction was, last month. He was, by far, I think, the top babyface.
But I don't think this changes anything, though, for WrestleMania. I think those matches are locked in. So what did you think of Raw?
Not a great show this week.
You were down on this. Yeah, I think it had its moments, but it was,
Stephanie was awesome.
She was the highlight of the show for me. I thought she was very good. And, yeah, you're talking about the injuries, and then no Roman Reigns either, so they had to be very creative on this night. And, boy, were they creative in some areas tonight. All right, that's going to wrap up the show for this week. We're back Wednesday with Review Away, which you can download at liveaudiowrestling.com, free on iTunes, and at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. Full review of WrestleMania 12 from '96 with the Iron Man match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and we will speak with you on Wednesday.